Friedrich Paulus was born into a lower middle-class family and initially aspired to a naval career, an ambition frustrated by rejection from the Imperial Navy. After briefly studying law, he entered the Prussian army in 1910 and followed a conventional pre-war officer trajectory, marked by steady promotion and early staff responsibilities. During the First World War, he served extensively on multiple fronts, experiencing both mobile warfare and prolonged attritional combat, most notably at Verdun. His service shaped him physically and psychologically. He suffered chronic amoebic dysentery, internalized a strong sense of military elitism, and absorbed a rigid conception of duty and obedience, reinforced by conservative role models within the officer corps. He emerged from the war decorated, promoted, and deeply conditioned by the norms of German professional military ethos. In the turbulent post-war period, Paulus joined Freikorps formations engaged in border conflicts in the east before being absorbed into the Reichswehr. Throughout the Weimar years, he advanced through staff and instructional posts, demonstrating strong analytical and organizational skills, but acquiring little independent troop command experience. Although he sympathized with the Kapp Putsch, this did not derail his career. His reputation was built on competence as a planner and tactician rather than charismatic leadership. Encounters with contemporaries such as Erwin Rommel highlight the contrast between Paulus's cerebral staff orientation and the more aggressive command styles that would later dominate public memory. During the Nazi period, Paulus remained politically opaque. Like much of the officer corps, he neither openly resisted nor enthusiastically embraced National Socialism, instead welcoming rearmament and professional expansion. His rise accelerated after 1934, when he became deeply involved in the development of Germany's motorized and armoured forces. By 1939, he was Chief of Staff of the 16th Army Corps and soon afterwards Chief of Staff of the 6th Army, serving under Walter von Reichenau in Poland and the West. In these commands, Paulus functioned as a highly effective operational planner, contributing to Germany's early military successes without bearing direct responsibility for frontline command. In September 1940, Paulus was appointed Quartermaster General I, effectively Halder's deputy on the Army General Staff. In this role, he became deeply involved in planning Operation Barbarossa. He recognized that only a rapid, decisive campaign aimed at Moscow could defeat the Soviet Union, and he understood that failure would mean a prolonged war Germany was ill-equipped to fight. Despite his strategic clarity, Paulus deferred consistently to Hitler's authority once political decisions overrode military logic. His later inspections of the Eastern Front revealed exhaustion, illness, and growing awareness of the war's grim trajectory. Yet he remained obedient and procedurally loyal. Paulus's decisive career turning point came with his appointment as commander of the 6th Army in early 1942. The selection was controversial. He had never commanded a division or a corps and now assumed responsibility for an army of roughly 300,000 men. His leadership style contrasted sharply with Reichenau's. Paulus rescinded ideological exhortations and expressed opposition to the Commissar order, although he lacked the authority or will to enforce this consistently. Militarily, however, he demonstrated competence during the Second Battle of Kharkiv, achieving a major victory that temporarily silenced critics and earned him high decorations. This success led directly to the catastrophe of Stalingrad. Ordered to advance on the city with insufficient forces and overstretched supply lines, Paulus repeatedly warned of the risks, but ultimately complied. The battle devolved into brutal urban combat, exacerbated by Hitler's refusal to allow operational flexibility. When Soviet forces encircled the 6th Army in November 1942, Paulus requested permission to break out, but accepted Hitler's order to hold fast. His reliance on higher authority, faith in promised relief, and unwillingness to assume independent responsibility proved decisive. unlike subordinates such as Seydlitz-Kurzbach, he would not openly defy orders, even as conditions became hopeless. During the encirclement, Paulus's authority eroded, supplies collapsed, relief efforts failed, and morale disintegrated. Promoted to Field Marshal shortly before the end, he refused to commit suicide, surrendering on the 31st of January 1943. His capture symbolized not only military defeat at Stalingrad, but also the collapse of the Wehrmacht's own aura of invincibility. In Soviet captivity, Paulus initially clung to traditional loyalties, rejecting collaboration and maintaining formal allegiance to Hitler. Over time, under sustained pressure and following the July 1944 assassination attempt on Hitler, he shifted position and joined Soviet-sponsored anti-Nazi appeals. This reversal cost him credibility amongst fellow prisoners and provoked severe reprisals against his family in Germany. After the war, Paulus served as a prosecution witness at the Nuremberg Trials. His testimony was significant. As a former senior planner and field marshal, he confirmed the aggressive criminal nature of Operation Barbarossa and identified key figures responsible for its conception. His post-war role thus contrasted sharply with his wartime obedience, marking a final belated acknowledgement of the regime he had served to the end at Stalingrad. Paulus's testimony fully met the expectations of his Soviet handlers. However, this did Paulus no good. A reunion with his seriously ill wife was denied to him due to a lack of expediency, to use the word the Soviets used to him. She died in 1949 at the age of 60, without ever having seen her husband again. The Field Marshal's appearance met with a mixed response from soldiers and officers in Soviet captivity. Most considered it undignified and him no less guilty than Keitel, Jodl and Goering. Many therefore assumed that he would be later put on trial. Upon his return, Paulus was not sent back to the POW camp, but transferred to a dacha in Tomelino. With him, Generals Vinzenz Müller and Arno von Lenski were also housed there. Paulus's adjutant, Colonel Wilhelm Adam, was also frequently present. In the summer of 1947, they spent 2 months in Crimea to recover from untreated pulmonary tuberculosis. In 1948, the other officers were released. Paulus was thus alone with only 2 German prisoners of war as his cook and orderly. This, along with the news of his wife's steadily deteriorating health, led to Paulus becoming increasingly depressed. In June 1948, he therefore requested a repatriation to the Soviet occupation zone, as he wanted to help build a democratic Germany closely allied with the Soviet Union. He apparently hoped that this would increase his chances of being released. This request went unanswered. Paulus suspected that an investigation had begun against him. He was no longer allowed to attend theatre performances in Moscow. Officials no longer visited him, and his radio had been confiscated under a pretext. Although sufficient incriminating evidence existed by 1949, no charges were ever brought against him. The death of his wife in November 1949 was kept secret from him for 4 weeks. The aim was to prevent Paulus from withdrawing his promise to move to East Germany, as he was now left with only his son and daughter, both of whom lived in West Germany. For this reason, a renewed request in May 1950 was only approved in principle. Concrete permission was not granted. A 1953 report stated, furthermore, Paulus's repatriation was postponed until further notice, after which the matter was no longer considered. In September 1953, Paulus met Walter Ulbricht, the head of the East German Communist Party and effective dictator of the country, under Soviet supervision, of course. Paulus wanted to return and permission was granted. Before boarding the train to Frankfurt on Oder with his 2 servants on the 24th of October 1953, Paulus wrote another letter of allegiance to the Soviet Union full of gratitude, which definitively branded him a traitor and a turncoat in the eyes of the West German public. On the 26th of October 1953, Paulus set foot on German soil for the first time since his visit to Nuremberg in 1946. He was greeted on the platform by Arno von Lenski and Wilhelm Adam. Lenski had previously been a lieutenant general and commanded the 24th Panzer Division. Now he was in charge of the East German armoured forces. Wilhelm Adam, the person whose diary entry described the end of the war for Paulus, had been an early Nazi and participant in the Beer Hall Putsch. He was now a member of the East German rubber stamp parliament and head of its army's officer training school. Paulus was taken to East Berlin for an official reception hosted by the East German state and party leadership. His name had gained prominence since Chancellor Adenauer had steered West Germany towards the West. East Germany sought to counteract this trend by supporting prominent figures. Thus, Paulus was given a villa in the Weißer Hirsch district of Oberloschwitz in Dresden. He was also given the privilege of owning a handgun and a very flash car for the time, an Opel Kaptan, manufactured in Rüsselsheim in West Germany. From the very beginning, Paulus was under surveillance by the Stasi. Some of his staff were informants for the Secret Service. His mail was monitored and his telephone and apartment were tapped. He was not given any positions of influence in East Germany. His official function was that of the head of the War History Research Council at the Academy of the Barracked People's Police. Paulus focused on documenting his views and memoirs. He even spoke publicly about the Battle of Stalingrad in 2 lectures in 1954. In 1955, he was the leading figure of the SED, that's to say the East German Communist Party's initiative, All German Officers' Meetings, which aimed to prevent West Germany's rearmament and integration into the West's foreign trade and foreign policy. During these meetings, he was tasked by the participating Western officials with securing the release of the last prisoners of war. He approached the East German leadership, which, however, had to yield to Moscow's interest in rapprochement with the West Germany at the time. A second meeting of the initiative called for national resistance against the policy of the permanent division of Germany. These pronouncements and the participation of former Waffen-SS officers led to the East German government's termination of the meetings. After that, Paulus withdrew from public life primarily for health reasons, as he'd been suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis since the beginning of 1956 at the latest. This leads to muscle paralysis despite complete mental clarity. Due to his rapidly deteriorating health, a study on the Battle of Stalingrad, which he'd been working on, remained unfinished. Paulus died in the late afternoon of the 1st of February 1957 at his villa in Dresden. He was buried with military honours in the Tolkevitz Municipal Cemetery. His urn was later moved to the family grave in the main cemetery at Baden-Baden. Thank you very much for listening to this. I shall also be doing a video on the testimony of Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus at Nuremberg, which he gave on the 11th of February 1946. I upload every day at 2000 hours. That's my time as Central European time, as I live in Poland and in Germany. I do longer videos such as this one on Tuesdays and on Fridays, and the documentary videos tend to be on the Friday and the Tuesday. There's somewhere between a short video and the longer documentary one. I also offer channel membership where for £5, €6 or $6, you get access now to more than 800 members only videos. So I hope that will be of interest. But for the moment, from me, bye for now.